Don't park your spirit. Find the path beyond harmony.
We are so powerful as beings. Nothing can tell you your path except for you. Once you start on this path, you can't turn around. If you believe it, things are going to work for you because every choice you make affects your life. Wherever you go, there you are. Welcome back. Today I have a special guest and I want to explain how I met this woman. Many years ago, I think it was about 2015, I had this friend, Mary Giuliani, who had a show similar to Zoom, what we're all doing now, but she was way cutting edge. It was way before this was the way we did things. And she had many guests on her show. And this lovely woman, Randy Peyser, was on her show and I listened to it. And she was talking about a book she wrote at the time, From Crappy to Happy. And then after I talked to Mary about her, she said, you know, she's also an editor. And I have been writing my book for 40 years, I think something like that. So she connected me with Randy Peyser. So Randy and her team, they had my first book that I sent. Fortunately, it was stopped at Balboa Press because I had people in the book that I talked about that who were not deceased. I didn't know how the business worked, but I was so glad that book stopped because the person I was at the time when I wrote that book, she does not exist anymore. So now Randy is going to be getting my new book very soon. So Randy Peyser, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. I'm glad to be here.
So I talked to Randy a few weeks ago. I called her out of the blue to let her know where my book is coming. And at this point, we started having a conversation about my book and about stuff. And I was like, wait, this woman's got a real spiritual background that I just had no idea about. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you today, Randy. We all start somewhere. My journey started in the fall of 2016. That's why I'm like exuberant with excitement because I just want to share because it's so new to me. But many of my friends and people like you, you've had this experience for your life. So where did your journey start? Please tell us your story. We'd love to hear it.
Sure. Well, I was a very sensitive child, incredibly sensitive, tuned into people and their feelings. And then I always felt like there's something more, like, how does life happen? How do, like you're in a certain phase of your life. Like I was in college and it's just like, well, at some point I'm not going to be in college. I'm going to be doing something. And what is that something? And there's just something more. And in the early 20s, I had a housemate who taught me the principle of manifestation. I'd never even heard of the word. And we had a toaster and the toaster broke. I said, oh God, I don't have money for a toaster. At least at that time I didn't in my 20s. And he goes, well, I don't either, but we're going to manifest it. I'm like, well, what do you mean we're going to manifest it? And within the week, he had brought home 3 toasters free that he had found. I mean, just wild stuff. So I started learning about manifestation. And then he introduced me to, a class that was happening. This was again, 46 years ago. So my journey started there with someone who was just ahead of me on the path.
And that's manifesting, which I know I learned about that with law of attraction. I'd heard of the word before when throughout life, manifest, which I never really gave it any attention. But when you know now how to manifest, it's like, oh, I want that, therefore I'm going to bring it to me. It's like, we can do this. We have the power to do this.
Well, I've done a lot of talks on my second book, which is The Power of Miracle Thinking. And so I do a talk on harnessing the power of miracle thinking. And like this TV host once said to me, you were born Jewish, your books are spiritually eclectic, and you speak in churches. And how do you account for all this? How do you account for all this? And I said, same God, different rapper. And so when I was writing The Power of Miracle Thinking, I really wanted to know, like, what's the secret sauce? How do miracles happen? How do the doors of grace open? And are there things that we can do from our side to help miracles happen? And so I came up with a formula. I had interviewed like 40 people. They had housing miracles, health miracles, money miracles, whatever it was, all these different kinds of miracles, relationship miracles. And I wrote their stories, and then I asked them, what are the thoughts, the attitudes, or the beliefs you held, plus the actions you took that you think contributed to those doors of grace opening? And I came up with this formula based on everything that everyone told me. And I call it the Ruth IRA. Now, I'm sure you've probably heard of a Roth IRA. It's like, an investment plan to, for your retirement savings, but Ruth is my middle name. And so the IRA is an acronym. And I had a dream one night. Again, this was many years ago. And I love to play Scrabble. Maybe some of the people watching this show or listening, are Scrabble aficionados as well. And I saw in my dream the letters in a vertical line, INSIST, insist. And I woke up asking myself, what is it that I'm absolutely willing to insist that happen in my life? Because when we have that sense of insistence, there is nothing that will stop us. And we don't have to know the how. All we have to know is that there's that clarity, that sense of insistence, and we will make it happen. That's it. That's insistence. So that's the I. But what happens in the manifestation cycle is the R, which is resistance. And what happens is whenever we're holding something that looks like this, universe, bring it to me. No, I don't want it to look like this. We're doing that push-pull kind of thing. Like, years ago, I wanted a relationship. Bring it to me, God, bring it to me, universe, bring it to me, divine spirit, just bring it. Oh, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to get hurt again. I've been hurt too many times. So again, wherever we have these, I call it the yes but. Where we're holding those yes buts, it doesn't mean that our greater good or that which we want to manifest won't happen, but it's going to take longer because we've got the yes but. We're saying like yes, no, yes, no. We're like, bring it to me, push it away, bring it to me. So we've got that going on. So wherever that is in your life as you're listening to this, just notice where is that resistance? Is there a resistance? Is there a but? I want X, but if there's a Y, you gotta look at that. So here I was years ago wanting a relationship. And I knew I felt that, yes, I really want this. No, I don't want to get hurt. And so I thought, and this is the A, I asked myself a question. What is it I'm truly willing to allow? And so this form of allowing is a very gentle truth. Like sometimes in life, we have to take those big steps out of your comfort zone. A lot of, coaches are going to tell you that, those life coaches, oh yeah, you got to step out of your comfort zone, baby.
Yeah.
But this isn't that kind of question. This question is your own internal, gentle truth. So at the time, in terms of a relationship, I said to myself, let's see, what is it I'm truly willing to allow? I'm willing to allow a new conversation with someone I don't know. I'm willing to allow a dinner out with someone I know. I am willing to allow maybe holding hands. And so you can stay in your safe zone. You're taking baby steps, but you're still moving forward towards your manifestation. Mm-hmm. And that way you allow life to unfold as it will. And guess what? It does.
I know, every time.
Yeah, there are many layers that go on in the mind and in like one part pushing against another part, but that's just, a little piece of the equation. Yeah. One of the things that I really encourage people to do is be very careful about the language you are using, because it's so easy, especially in these days. Think of like, what is your default I'm statement? Like mine years ago was, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. Well, guess what? You keep attracting when you're doing an I am statement.
Disappointment,
right?
Constantly.
But I also I don't believe in airy fairy, and I don't believe in, well, let's make something up and just keep focusing there, and that's going to make it happen. So I was saying to myself back then, again, this was back in the 90s when I'm feeling so disappointed, what is it that I can truthfully say that's still going to bring me up higher than disappointment? And at the time, the only thing I could think to say was, I am. And if that's all that you can say, then say that. But watch your language. And another thing to watch are words like I will and I want to, because you're futurizing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Be present. Bring it into the present. I have. I am.
Yep.
I'm grateful for.
Yes.
Don't push it out in your future.
Yeah, when you say you want something, it's like, I've tried to tell people this all the time, like, I want this, and this could be the perfect package. So I'm like, the more you want it, the more you're saying I don't have it. It's like, you have to visualize it, feel like it's here, be present with it. And then there it is. Yeah, you've learned this early on.
And then I really encourage people to bring some joy into the equation of whatever it is. You know, like myself and a housemate, and we learned a technique from a woman in Felton, California, a very dear woman, Peggy Black, who did a Miracles Intentions group that we attended for 20 years. And, you know, so we would do intentions, present tense intentions. So you want to be present tense. And one of my intentions is, I love my life. And I would put all that energy into it, and it would make everybody laugh. You know, and the group would acknowledge my intention by saying, witness it by saying, so be it. And I would say, so it is. That's how I would claim it. You know, but a lot of people, they're going to do their intentions like this. You know, I intend that I'm happy in my life.
Mm-hmm.
No,
yeah.
I am happy in my life. Bring in the emotion that you're claiming for yourself. And fill yourself with that.
Yeah, this journey has brought you from, I know, the manifestation part, but then when you and I had the conversation the other day, you've gone so much deeper than that. Just the fact that you went from I'm to when you're saying I am, that just takes me to Wayne Dyer and like, I am that I am. It's like we are all part of the great spark.
Yes, I've interviewed Wayne Dyer. I interviewed him 3 times throughout the years because I was editor-in-chief of a national Mind, Body, Spirit magazine. And I wrote for a lot of Mind, Body, Spirit magazines all over the country. And, you know, I got to interview him. I was one of the last people to interview him before he passed away. There were 8 of us, 8 journalists, myself included, from around the country. We were invited to be on a call with Wayne that was being recorded. And we each got to ask him only one question apiece. And this was right before his last book, I Can See Clearly Now, came out. And so the idea was that each of us would ask a question, the conversation was recorded, the transcription of that conversation would go to each of these major magazines around the country, the Mind, Body, Spirit magazines, and then the publishers would put together their articles. So he was just doing one interview, but getting, you know, eight articles out of it.
Wow.
And so I actually got to, and the agreement with Hay House, who published his book, is that in order to ask that one question, you have to read the whole book. And his book was like over 400 pages long. So, you know, I committed to it, I read it. And so I got to ask the first question because I was the first one on the call. And so I was asking him about the nature of prayer, because in his book, he shared, you know, there are 2 forms of prayer. At least he was breaking it down to 2 forms. He said, there's a kind of prayer where you're wishing, hoping, and pleading or begging. And then there's the other kind that's a prayer of gratitude. And he said, guess which one works? Yes. So
you have to think about it. Yeah.
Right. Need we say more about that, right?
Yes.
You know, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into our conversation.
I'd like that.
And there's so much sorrow, grief, anxiety, and stress happening in so many people's lives, dealing with COVID, dealing with life as we now have it. And I want to share some things that have really propelled me through the most difficult times in my life. So there's a phrase, you may have heard it, some people have heard it, some haven't, called the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is when everything falls apart. There's a lot of loss, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of sorrow. Maybe you've lost your identity, maybe you're just really feeling lost, or you're in tears. It's a very dark, deep place. It's the place of the shadow self. It's a difficult time in people's lives. And I have this joke and I say, why do they call it the dark night of a soul when it's never one night? Should it be called the dark year and a half of the soul? I mean, let's have a little truth here. So in the mid-90s, I was editor-in-chief of a New Age magazine in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, when the New Age was hot and happening. And you could say the word New Age and people didn't yet roll their eyes.
Exactly.
And so I was very, very proud. You know, it's like, whoa, you know, I'm like the voice for the whole New Age in the whole Bay Area because I've got this major magazine. And I know all the practitioners and everybody who's teaching or doing anything. And the authors, I'm interviewing all the best-selling New York Times best-selling authors, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, Carolyn Mace, Neil Donald Walsh, James Redfield, on and on and on. And so like I'm in my glory, and then the magazine got sold. And all of a sudden, job is gone. Relationship went with it.
Mm-hmm.
And someone I knew had committed suicide when he couldn't create his dream. And I was just lost. I was devastated. Identity gone. And I'm in tears, and I don't even know what to do with myself. And I am stuck. I am just so stuck, depressed, and hurting. And a friend of mine, Deborah LaForest, she's actually my guitar partner since the 80s, where I play many instruments. And she told me this one thing, and she said, Randy, whenever I'm going through like these really difficult periods or grief or a crisis, she said, I only ask myself one question, which is, what is the most loving thing I can do for me right now? And so I liked that question. What is the most loving thing I can do for me right now? And I started turning inward and asking, what's the most loving thing I can do for me right now? Go take a walk. What's the most loving thing I can do for me right now? Go do the dishes. What's the most loving thing I could do for me right now? Go cry. Go hide under the covers. Whatever it was my truth. Remember earlier, I was talking about that gentle truth. Mm-hmm. And then one day, because that's all I did all day long. What's the most loving thing I can do for me right now? Okay, go do that. And then one day I heard in my mind, sit. Okay, I'll sit. What's the most loving thing I can do for me right now? Sit, do nothing. Okay. I started only hearing sit and do nothing. So I sat and did nothing, sitting cross-legged at a time when I was young enough and limber enough to sit cross-legged on my little carpeted floor.
And be comfortable.
My father was always giving to charities in Israel, and he was always getting these boxes of Hanukkah candles. So he would always send me all these boxes. I don't know, 8 boxes of Hanukkah candles. So I decided, well, I'm sitting and doing nothing. Maybe I'll put some Hanukkah candles in the menorah. And I would assign an intention to each of them. Like, this candle is for hope. This one is for love. This one is for comfort. And then I would sit with the candles until they burned out, which with those particular candles was 1 hour and 20 minutes a day. Let me tell you, if you're sitting for 1 hour and 20 minutes every single day, you get quiet inside. Oh. And within 2 weeks, I could hear the silence of a flame. I felt so quiet inside. Then I started thinking about just all these different things that I'd been through in my life. And I sat down at my computer. Now, my computer at that time was the Mac Junior Classic with the screen that was like this big. It's not even as big as your face.
Right.
And I would write a story. Then, the next day I would think of, this other thing that happened, some random thing that happened in my life, but it was kind of funny or whatever. And I wrote that. And within a month, I had 100 pages. And I'm thinking, I think I have a book, but if I have a book, what book is this? And I started noticing that, all of my stories, I've gone through some crappy experience and I've overcome it. So I've gone from crappy to happy. Mm-hmm. And so it became my first book. And from doing my book, then I started helping other people do their books, to the point where the whole book direction is my work. It's my career. It's my life. And now I've helped a gazillion authors and first-time authors primarily. I edit their books, ghostwrite their books, get their books sold to New York publishers, first-time authors. And just from asking that question, what's the most loving thing I can do for me now? It's like, this past year at the same time, I had one of my authors' books, Publishers Weekly was calling one of their top picks. Cosmo was calling another one of my authors' books one of their best nonfiction books 2020. And the Wall Street Journal had another one of my authors' books on the list for 5 weeks, all in the same month. Wow. As best hardcover business book. And so my whole life and career shifted just from asking the question, what's the most loving thing I can do for me right now? Couldn't have predicted it, but I'd love to share this story with people, because you can ask yourself that question.
This is the life changer just right now. I know people are going to hear this. Yes. I'm tearing up, because this is what this is going to be titled. If people would, this is everything, Randy. I get teared up when things get like real.
Because you're feeling it deeply, you're tearing up because you're feeling it deeply, and you can feel the truth in it. And this message is going to help people.
Oh my goodness. That is why I'm doing this. Oh boy. Yes. If I would have had that in my life, if I would have even thought to ask myself that question, I would have catapulted many years before, but I'm so glad I didn't, because I wouldn't be doing this right now. But this message is huge. I know so many people who are going to put this on their walls and they're going to remember it just by hearing this interview. This is powerful. And that started your life.
Yes. And I want to share with you, like, we go through, at least I've gone, let me speak for myself. I have gone through many cycles of death and rebirth in my life. My life is this way, and now it's this way, and now it's that way, and now it's this way. You know, these different cycles. But when you're in the death part of the cycle, it feels like a part of you is dying because a part of you really is. So that something deeper and bigger and what's meant for you even more can emerge. And you have to learn how to ride the waves. Because, you know, in my first book, Crappy to Happy, that's what that book became. You know, I learned that when I was in the deepest parts of grief or sorrow, it felt like it was never ending, like the waves would never stop. But then at some point I realized, oh, I'm not crying this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And they do stop. Then it'll just pick up again. And then you're back and you're riding the waves. Yeah. And one of my favorite things that I ever wrote, is in the Crappy to Happy book. And I wrote this line: sorrow digs the well and joy fills it. And so what I learned in that dark night of the soul time is that if I was really willing to feel the depths of grief, the depths of sorrow, the depths of despair, the depths, whatever the depths are or were, I realized at some point as riding these waves and this pain came up, but really being with it and not just denying it, not turning on the TV, not going to Facebook, not, no distraction, absolutely be with the feeling. I realized I was digging a well. I was letting that stuff out, and I was digging a deep well in which I could hold that much more joy. And so people, if you're going to be in denial, you want to live on the surface, you could hit certain levels of happiness or joy, but you're not going to go into that deep joy place. You just can't, because you haven't dug the well.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, you have to be a brave person to dig well. You just do. People are afraid of their emotions and they run. It takes courage.
Yeah.
It takes courage to cry. It takes courage to feel.
That's the man I'm divorcing, because he won't go there. He won't even attempt to feel. He can't go. I mean, I always say he lives this really shallow space. He's never been able to go from the heart or from the depth. And it's like, I require that now. That's all I am. I live from that space now.
You know what I learned about people, though, is that we can never know anyone else's lessons.
Yeah.
We just can't. Years ago, I had a friend who I was trying to help her in her career. And I thought I knew her way. And, I bought her supplies that I thought, oh my God, all you need to do is start making these recordings. People are going to buy these. And she never, ever pursued it. And I was driving on the freeway one time. I was very busy judging her in my mind. And all of a sudden, the light bulb went off. And the light bulb was, wait a minute, I don't know what her lessons are in this lifetime. Like, I'm a go-getter who go-gets.
Exactly. You know how to make stuff
happen. But I had to think, then wait a minute, she had a mother who called her a little witch when she was 5 years old. Maybe her only lesson in this lifetime is to love herself.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know her lessons, but I was too busy judging. And now, just like, that was years ago. I just let that go. Don't judge other people. We don't know what their lessons are. You don't know what his lessons are.
Yes. Yep. That's where I've been about this whole pandemic. It's like, I wrote an article because people are getting more and more crazy mad. And I took it from like, you're behind a little sailboat. We got the little wake. It's like, but now we're behind a cruise ship. And here's the wake. Here's the middle where it's nice and peaceful and easy, where we just come from love. But now the people are so divided. It's like the wake behind a freight line, and that's how big it gets. But yes, if you just come to the middle, you don't have to agree. Just come back to center, and then just come back to where we are and who we are.
I want to address that about coming back to the middle, because I do have a story that relates to that. Is so powerful. Before I was in the world of publishing, I was in the world of nonprofits. And for years and years and years and years and years, at the top of my salary at $9 an hour. And I was working for the city of Pacifica, California, for their seniors elderly program, the Seniors in Action program. And I was working for a person at the time who treated people very cruelly, staff people, not me so much, but other people. And I witnessed it. And it was devastating to watch. This is a person who literally picked up a stack of papers, like somebody's report that they had worked on, flung it in the person's face. I mean, just really inappropriate kinds of behavior and got away with it constantly. And I was in my 20s and I was like just stressed all the time, just, going into work, how is this person going to treat people? And I hung in there though, because I was young and I don't know, I loved the seniors, loved my seniors, loved them. I just tried to avoid this man. But it was so stressful. I never knew what I was going to run into every single day. And I would be in tears. I was 24 years old. I was young. And it was just, the stress on me was huge, just witnessing what I witnessed. And after about a year and a half, he died. And I would do forgiveness work because, hey, I'm a spiritual person. So I'll do my little forgiveness work, little. And I thought I had. And then I think of him like months later and go, bastard. And I realized, I haven't forgiven him at all. And so I tried over the years at different times. Yes, I forgive you. I forgive you. La, 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 la. No. And then after about 7 years, it's not like he was on my mind at all. No, wasn't thinking about him. And I had a lucid experience, when you have these lucid dreams that are just not dreams and it.
Yes.
And he showed up in front of a chalkboard because this was before whiteboards. And so he showed up in front of a chalkboard and he was pointing with this piece of chalk up on the board. And I said to myself, but out loud in this lucid experience, I said, oh, he's teaching me something. And in that second, I received a transmission of love that's greater than anything I have ever felt on this earth. I was like flooded with this love. And I realized he's making his amends to me from beyond the veil. And there was so much love, then there was nothing left to forgive. It was done. And I realized, I asked myself this question. I believe that the only place that we're all ultimately going to, is to love. So the question I ask myself is, can I be that love now? Can I be that love here? And let's say I have a disagreement or a falling out with anyone. It doesn't happen that often, thank God, knock on wood, but still, if there is any kind of discord or upset, I ask myself, can I at least bring this back to neutral? Because that's the middle that you're talking about.
Yeah. You've had a lot of lessons through your life.
Yes.
And I love it. Back in San Francisco, you were connected to all these new age authors back when it was like only some people are plugged into that. I mean, I was in Las Vegas probably at the time, and it was like, I wouldn't have crossed my brain to even think about that, but you were plugged in the early stages with some of the top name people that people have known.
Oh yeah.
So you could not help but be exposed to this. And the fact that this unfolded for you is just fascinating. The way.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true.
Where would you say you are now on your spiritual journey at this place in your life? Because I know during our conversation, we could have talked for hours. You had things to do. I had things to do, but I was loving it because meeting somebody at the same space.
I'm working on a new book now, and I actually invite people to send submissions for it. It's called The Little Book of Big Epiphanies. And I had an epiphany just a couple of weeks ago. And I was driving on the freeway. I just realized, and this is my epiphany, that whether it's the good, the bad, the ugly, or anything in between, everything is pushing us towards a higher good.
Everything, always.
Everything is pushing us towards a higher good. Everything that happens to us, even if it feels like it's an ending of something and you can't imagine, like, how could this ever be good? But it just might be on the other side of it. You don't know that yet.
Yes.
And so I'm for this book, The Little Book of Big Epiphanies, I'm looking for real stories, short stories, 1 page, 2 page, 3 pages, and the epiphany. And I want these stories to be so strong that it's not like something that somebody would normally think of, but it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. Here I was driving on the freeway a couple of weeks ago, as I mentioned.
I'm driving too.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, and I'm in the fast lane on the freeway. And all of a sudden there's like somebody right on the back of my bumper, like get out of that lane. But I look over and there's a truck on my right side, and I'm going, it doesn't feel safe because I'm going kind of fast. I was already speeding anyway, but this person is like really on the bumper, and he pulls up and he's riding the bumper. I don't feel it's safe to go to the right, but he decides he's going to pass me on the right. And he just swerves around my car and then swerves like between me and the truck in the other lane and just takes off. And a big word that starts with an A and it's not very nice is what comes out of my mouth out loud. And then all of a sudden I caught myself and I said, wait a minute. This man was a setup from the universe for me to see where I hold anger.
Wow.
It's like this had nothing to do with the driver in another car.
No, nothing at all.
No, it's like it's showing me where I'm holding anger, because if I have a choice in any emotion I'm going to express, why am I so angry?
Uh-huh.
And so I decided I'm going to make a different choice. And so I said out loud to myself, I choose peace. And one thing I noticed when I said, I choose peace, you can't say the word peace without your mouth forming into a smile. Peace. Yeah. And I thought about the word ease, peace. You know, it's like, oh, it's like, then I was at choice. So that's the kind of story that's in this book. And so it's like, you know, it's not the kind of thing you would think of, like the universe is setting us up to have certain experiences. And that's where I came up with the epiphany that everything that's happening to us, it's all pushing us towards a higher good, because that opened me in that second to realizing, do I want to be the person who acknowledges that anger, that expresses road rage, and then is going to keep attracting more anger to me? No.
And more road rage and everything that goes with it.
Right.
Wow. I remember the days when I felt road rage. I was be like somebody who's stressing me out. It's like today, it's like people can go flying around me, bump me right on my tail. And I'm just so peaceful, like they're living their story. I mean, it doesn't even affect me. It's like, I bless them. I'm sure you do too.
You know, there's many lessons I've gotten on while driving. A lot of times things will just fly into my mind, or, you know, just all these different lessons.
I had an epiphany similar to that when I was driving on 23rd and Puyallup. It was probably 8 years ago. My mother was married 5 times. The first 4 men were abusive, violent alcoholics. Her 5th husband was 12 years younger than she was. He was 20 when he married my mother. My sister Lynn was 15 and I was 10. So this man married our mom, moved us into a house. My mom was crazy. My mom was just crazy. And so he never knew anything about our history or our past, but he raised us. He put a roof over our head. He did all this. And then we graduated, moved on. It literally dawned on me as I'm driving down the road that my mother had passed. And I'm like, he saved my life. I mean, I feel like crying again. I'm like, that man, I would not be here on this planet right now I'm crying doing, because it meant so much. And we don't even have a connection or whatever now, but I got home and I wrote him a letter and I researched to like find an address. I sent it off and then he sent me a letter back. It was just like, he was so grateful that I acknowledged what he did. My sisters never did. You know, it was just, we lived because of him. I'm just a bubbling idiot on the show, but I don't care. No, I totally hear what you're saying. So I would love, anybody has an epiphany story for Randy. I'll have all the information in the comments so they can know how to get in touch with you, your websites. So,
hey, Carrie, I want to call you out on something right now.
What's that?
Because, you know, we had a conversation a little bit earlier about negative words. And so when you expressed emotion, it wasn't safe for you to just have an emotion. You called yourself a bumbling idiot.
I know.
And this is the kind of thing that, you know, just catch yourself and love yourself enough to say, I'm a feeling person who loves.
And that's what I've become.
Who feels deeply. Yes.
Because now anytime I'm doing stuff and it's like all this stuff comes from love, and I do cry a lot, like you can imagine. It's so unusual for me to be in this space because from the previous space, but no, I am proud to be this crybaby now. And I love it because I cry all the time. I mean, I cry when I write. It's like I'm always crying. It's just natural, the love that comes through.
Yes. You're just developing your capacity to just love more and more and more. Like, you know, hopefully we're all doing that. Hopefully.
Yes. And that's what I love. That's been the village that I've created for myself. I'm only surrounded now by people that are like-minded people that do come from the space of love. And we're all here wanting to share our messages to help others realize that this is a way of living. It's a way of transforming your life into something that you just can't even beyond comprehend.
You know, I help a lot of people who are writing memoir. In fact, I have a memoir that's been optioned for Hollywood film, which I'm very excited about from one of my authors. And, you know, the reason like I wrote Crappy to Happy or why other people write memoirs, typically because we've been through incredibly challenging experiences and we want to help other people who are coming up behind us and going through those experiences. Definitely. You know, we share from who we are. And, you know, I always say I teach best what I need to learn, Like when I wrote a book about finding happiness, it wasn't like, yeah, la, 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 I'm happy all the time. No, I wanted to find happiness. I wanted to see if it was possible in life.
Yes.
You know, the same thing with the power of miracle thinking. You know, I want to learn, like, well, what makes miracles happen. And so, you know, we teach by doing.
Yep.
We teach best what we need to learn.
Yes, we do. So let's talk a little about what you can do for others then, as far as what your services are, so that way everybody can know everything about you. So we'll definitely put the links down below to get a hold of you. But definitely, if you've got any kind of an epiphany story for Randy, please, the link down there. What can you do for people now? I know Author One Stop.
My company, we edit books, we ghostwrite books, and I pitch to the New York publishers. I primarily work with first-time authors and professionals. And so, you know, I invite people. Yeah, I mean, I invite people, let's have a 15-minute conversation. You could tell I'm not a pressure person. It's not that at all. But within 15 minutes, I will know exactly the plan for your book and what it needs, whether it's self-publishing, traditional publishing, or anything in between. I just know.
Yeah.
And I'm so connected in the book world and just creating a lot of magic and miracles for people, frankly. You know, so.
And I know Carolyn Mays, she's like, you had her, I saw the book about miracles. She wrote an intro on there. She wrote, I was like,
Carolyn Mays did endorse my book, The Power of Miracle Thinking. Yes.
That is so fantastic.
Yeah, she did.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah.
She changed my life. Well, she did the one book similar to what you're doing about the epiphanies. It was about people to share their miracle stories about things. And she wrote that, and that was the catapult to bring her to this place in evolution that she's at now. And I just listened 3 times now to The Power of Holy Language. It's like she went from learning to being, and now she's there, and you can just hear it in her conversations and in the lecture that she has become all these things she's been teaching us about all these years. And now she is there, and the holy, I mean, so this is going to catapult you. Then you get all these epiphany stories. Watch out, Randy, you're going to be over the top, over the top.
Yes. And I'm working on a second book as well, and I'm inviting submissions for that. And that book is called Bald Courage. And I went through chemo, radiation, and breast cancer in 2012. And when I went through chemo, which was frankly the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life, there's no way I could have read a book from beginning to end. But if I could have opened up a book to any page and read one thing that would help me get through the damn day, that's the book that I'm writing. So just like a nugget. So anybody who's been or is dealing with cancer or chemo or anything like that, I invite, you know, like just invite that little phrase or whatever it is that's helping you get through the day or that helped you get through the day. So that's what I can say. And it's easy to reach me. You can see author1stop.com. That's, you know, it's just easy. There's a contact link there. Just, you know, be in touch with me. Want to talk about a book? Want to talk about Little Book of Big Epiphanies? Want to talk about Bald Courage? Any of it. So, you know, one of the ways that I like to close when I'm speaking is I have a question for people. Now, this is a question, if you're writing a book, it applies to you, but if you're not writing a book, it could apply to anything that you're doing in your life. And so the question is this your priority or an option? Because if it is your priority, you will make it happen and nothing will stop you. If it's an option, it'll never get done.
Insist or resist.
That's right.
I love
priority or an option. There you go.
I love that, Randy. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I know everybody that views this channel is going to appreciate it. You've given a whole new twist, whole new way to look at things, and a lot of little nuggets people could post all around them to remember where they are, who they are, and how they can get through to this next step, because you and I are here, and it feels so good to be here, just coming from the space of love. That's why I just want to share with the planet, because it just feels so good when you're here, coming from this soul space. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, very welcome.